Tonight, we enter one of America's most haunted places, a towering relic of disease, despair, and death that still watches over the hills of Louisville, Kentucky. For decades, the Waverly Hills Sanatorium has drawn ghost hunters and thrill seekers from around the world, but what most people don't know is that it's still alive in its own way. This is the story of my final shift there, the night I learned what still breathes in the dark halls of Waverly Hills.
The entrance gate of Waverly Hills at night, dim security lights glowing through mist. I was hired as a temporary night guard for the Waverly Hills Sanatorium in late October. The company that owned the property had been running ghost tours all month, and they needed someone to patrol the grounds between midnight and 6 a.m., when the last tour ended and the next day's staff arrived. It sounded simple, easy money. Just me, the silence, and 180,000 square feet of crumbling hallways. I'd heard the stories, of course, about the 63,000 people who supposedly died there when tuberculosis swept through in the early 1900s, about the body chute, the tunnel where corpses were secretly lowered out of sight of patients. But I didn't believe any of it. Places like Waverly Hills don't scare you until you're inside them.
Long corridor of the sanatorium, yellow light from flashlight, cutting through dust. When I clocked in, the last tour group was still leaving. Their guide, a guy named Mason, nodded at me as he packed up his equipment. "Quiet night, man. You'll be fine. Just don't go down to the 5th floor." I laughed it off, but his tone was dead serious. "What's on the 5th floor?" "Room 502, he said. "If you hear something up there, don't answer." He smiled, but it wasn't reassuring. The door slammed shut behind him, and his footsteps vanished into the fog outside. The silence that followed was suffocating. The main lobby interior, peeling paint, old gurneys and wheelchairs faintly visible. The first hour passed quietly. I walked the main hall, checked the windows, tested a few doors. The smell of damp plaster and rot clung to everything. My flashlight beam trembled across walls covered in graffiti. Names, pentagrams, random numbers. Every so often, the old building sighed, wind through broken panes, pipes contracting, the occasional metallic clang echoing down the stairwells. But beneath those natural sounds, there was something else. A rhythm. Soft and steady, like shoes shuffling across tile. I called out, "Hello?" The sound stopped instantly.
Narrow stairwell leading upward, lit only by flashlight glow. I made my way toward the sound, up the main staircase. My boots echoed hollowly. The stairwell smelled like mildew and something older, like rusted metal soaked in dust. On the 3rd floor landing, I caught something in the beam. Footprints, bare ones, small, leading toward the patient ward. They ended halfway down the hall. That's when my radio hissed. Static first, then a whisper. "Don't go higher." I froze. The radio wasn't even turned on. I checked the switch. Dead. No light, no signal, no battery sound. But the voice had been there, just inches from my ear. The dark 4th floor hallway, ceiling lights flickering weakly. By 2 a.m., I convinced myself it was my imagination. Fatigue, maybe. I'd been up since early morning. Then the elevator bell rang. There's no power in that building, not after midnight, but the bell was clear. Ding, echoing down every hallway like a taunt. I walked toward it, heart pounding. The elevator doors stood open, waiting. Inside, the floor was smeared with old grime, and a single button glowed faintly. 5. I swear I didn't touch it, but the doors slid shut, and the car began to move.
Inside the elevator, dim amber emergency light, dust in the air. The ride was slow, mechanical grinding echoing through the shaft. The light inside flickered with each floor. I could feel the weight of the building pressing down, as if the elevator was being pulled upward by something unseen. When it stopped, the doors opened onto total darkness. The 5th floor. I stepped out. The air was heavier there, hotter, thicker, like being underwater. Somewhere ahead, something metal scraped across the floor. Then I saw her.
A distant figure in a hospital gown, standing near an open doorway, lit by dim yellow light. At the far end of the hall stood a woman. She wore an old hospital gown, her back turned, hair hanging down past her shoulders. Her bare feet left faint wet prints behind her as she moved. "Ma'am?" I called out. "This area is closed." She didn't answer. I took a step forward, and the lights flickered. When they came back, she was gone. But the door beside her, room 502, was wide open.
Inside room 502, broken hospital bed, faint hanging rope shadow on the wall. They say a nurse hanged herself in that room in 1928. I'd read about it on a ghost tour pamphlet earlier that evening, brushed it off as folklore. But when I stepped inside, I felt it, the kind of silence that listens back. The bed frame was still there, twisted, rusted. The ceiling hook above it swayed gently, though there was no wind. And then, that smell, coppery, damp, unmistakable. I turned toward the doorway and saw her again, inches from me. Her eyes were sunken, skin gray, and her lips moved without sound. She leaned close and whispered, "You shouldn't have come." The body chute tunnel, flashlight beam cutting through the long dark corridor. I don't remember running down the stairs, but I was suddenly on the 1st floor, gasping for air. Every hallway looked different, like the building had rearranged itself. Doors led to blank walls. Corridors ended in collapsed ceilings. I found the tunnel entrance, the so-called body chute. Locals had warned me never to go near it, but right then it felt like the only way out. I aimed my flashlight into the darkness. The beam vanished before reaching the end. Then I heard dozens of footsteps below, slow, dragging, climbing upward.
Dawn outside the sanatorium, fog lifting, the guard standing alone by the gate. I don't know how I made it out. The next thing I remember is standing outside the front gate, sun breaking through the fog, my uniform torn and my flashlight dead. The morning security team found me shaking, covered in dust and blood that wasn't mine. They said the cameras inside never recorded anything, not even me. When I went back to collect my last paycheck, the supervisor said something that stuck with me ever since. "There hasn't been a night guard on staff in months," he said. "You sure you worked here?" I quit trying to explain after that. But sometimes when I drive past the hill at night, I see the windows light up, just for a moment, and a shadow standing on the 5th floor, watching.